Hello everybody, Frankie Day here for Frankie Day Models. Okay gentlemen, for this beautiful overcast Wednesday evening for you, I have video number 6 for my 1898 Portland steamer. Like I said fellas, I'm here, there, everywhere. And I'll be back on the, I almost got my USS Saucy almost done. I just got the railings due on it and it's all finished. And I'll be posting a video for that probably maybe later on this week I will. But right now I'm trying to finish up what I got on my plate because I'm doing a pretty good job now. I'm finishing up a lot of stuff I had started. So so I'm pretty much ahead of the game now. So I elected to go ahead and start working on my steamer and make some progress on her. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Freddie Duarte for Sooner Models. He graciously sent me 4 bottles of Tamiya glue, and I thank him from the bottom of my heart, from my foretop, and I'm very blessed and very grateful for what he has done. Freddie's a wonderful man. He has a beautiful heart of gold, and he'll bend over backwards for you to do anything. He's a great person. So a lot of people should, I give him support all I can, what I can do, and he's a wonderful person. I'm very grateful for what he's done. And I was just running out of glue, guys. I tried to go out of the hobby shop to get glue. Smithies, they're closed down. They're a small business, and just a solely owned business. That's it. Just one guy who owns the place, and just a fart in the wind. And he closed down until it's a reopening again. And the only hobby in the Hobby Town USA, I mean not Hobby Town, but Hobby Lobby, they're closed down. I said, shit, where am I going to go now? That leaves the hobby shop. So I went to the hobby shop. They were open. Oh, thank you. They got curb service out there. You can't go in and venture around, look around and get this. They closed the whole place down there. You got to call in your order, and go up to the curb. And so I was in the vicinity. I didn't call in, so he probably thought I was a customer that called in before. He recognized who I was and says, hey, I need some glue. Do you got any Tamiya glue? No, we're out of that, Frank. We ain't got no Tamiya glue. I said, oh, Jesus. He says, do you got any tube glue? Any Tester's tube glue? Nope, we ain't got none of that either. Well, how about some ACC? It's a Crano glue. Oh yeah, we got that. Well, thank heavens. So I got that, but I needed some glue, I don't know what and so Freddie sent me 4 bottles, and thank you, Freddie. God bless you, buddy. 4 bottles of glue. So, man, I'm in the plastic now, in the wood. Thank you, Freddie. Okay, we're back to the Portland steamer. Those of you probably heard of the ship before. A lot of you probably haven't. And I think I recited the history of this thing probably about 2 or 3 times, because this is video number 6 for the build of this beautiful ship. She was 8 years old at the time of 1898 of the great Portland gale they had. And she was commanded at the helm by Hollis Blanchard. He was a very young captain. And I don't think the man had that much sea experiences to tell by the weather. And the man was he was a seasoned skipper in a way, but he wasn't really seasoned that much enough to know using proper judgment. He just used improper judgment when he took that ship out for a shuttle run. See, back in the days of 1898, back in the late 19th century, there was no cars, no airplanes. The only thing that was shaking at the time was trains and stagecoach and horse and buggies and horse and walking. And that was it. And a lot of people had families that lived in Boston and Massachusetts. And then they had families living in Portland, Maine. So this thing was a packet steamer. It was more or less designed to transport people. They were the Greyhound buses and regional authority buses today, back in the 1890s, back in the late 19th century, because that was the only transportation that these things ever had at the days, was either by ship. The shipping lanes were crowded full of ships because they brought mail, they brought supplies, they brought cargo, They brought personnel, and they did everything. So back in those days, for $1, well, let's go to Boston, see my parents. We'll spend Thanksgiving there. So what they do, they pick up the ship, the Portland steamer, and they steam all the way from Portland, Maine, up around Cape Cod, up around Cape Ann, and right back into Indian Wharf, where she berthed at. And you pick up disembark those people, and pick a bunch of people from up there and go right back up to Maine again. Well, when you left 7 o'clock at night, he checked in with the weather service, because back in those days, it was all a telegram. That's at the time that's the only weather service they had. They didn't have no Doppler radar system, and they did hillbilly style. Yeah, looks like it's gonna rain today. I can tell. You know, that's about the only system that they had, and also from captains and the other people that came in from the sea. So you got a hurricane coming this way, you know, and word of mouth got around. That's how they got the information. So that's how everything registered back in them days. But when Captain Hollis Blanchard, the time he got underway, with about, I don't know, 190, 200 people, somewhere around there. And they go back to the route going up to, this is right after Thanksgiving holiday, guys, around the 26th. It's right after the Thanksgiving holiday. So people need to get back to go to work and everything. So they lived up in Portland, Maine. So they shuttled all the way from the Indian Wharf up to Maine. So when they got underway, he thought he can beat the storm. He knew there was something coming, but he says, I can be there in the morning, and it'll probably get there in the morning time we pull in, and we'll just stay there, and we'll lay anchor there until it blows over. But I think I can make it. He just used improper judgment. What he did, he took her out beyond Cape Ann, because it was starting to get bad. When time they started reaching Cape Ann, time she rounded the fist around Cape Ann, which came up this way, not up this way. She was left in the middle of the harbor, and that's when she fell into the full teeth of the gale. And paddle steamers are very stable sailors. They don't move too wild and choppy and choppy seas. They broach, they rock. They got these big sponses on there. They rock, and you got to realize you got two paddles that are propulsion. And when that ship starts heaving to starboard, you got one paddle that's not doing nothing. You're just spinning, a fart in the wind. And you got one that's digging in the water, causing the vessel to turn to starboard. Then she decides to heave to port. The whole process is repeated. The man actually wasn't going nowhere. He was using fuel up, coal, everything. And he foundered. Everything on that ship was blown off before it went down. Anybody that was staying in those staterooms, saloon decks, up topside, even the wheelhouse where Captain Blanchard was at, along with his wheelsman, they were blown off the side before the ship went down. That accounted for all the bodies that were washed ashore. Because the people that was in those spaces at the time were blown overboard. And the currents, all the different type of currents that were out there at the time, probably made it, the tide brought the bodies in the shore. They say for 40 miles, there's wreckage of the ship. For 40 miles, all the way from Cape Ann to Chatham. All the way down the coast of Cape Ann. You could practically walk on it. And they knew something very bad happened, and they found the Portland, and there she was gone. So anyway, I bought this ship about 2 or 3 years ago. It cost $600. It's a very pricey model. And you got to have some kind of experience to build one of these things, because it's not made for the novice, and it's too expensive a model to flub up on. And so you really got to build this model in your mind as well as the instructions. The plans they give you on this kit are profile and hull sections and walking beam plans, and that's about it. They don't, and also they give you probably some berthing space too. Actually, it's called deck plans. They show you where the berthing's at and everything else. But when it comes to making the superstructures and everything, you pretty much got to look at the profile right here, what's behind me. And of course, you know, with the graciousness of laser cutting, they got parts on there with names on there and stuff. where they can tell you what part is what. And you can pretty much figure it out yourself. But anyway, this is the port of the steamer right here. Enough chatter, and we'll bring it over here, boys. That's so far Frankie Day's gone on it. Yeah, excuse me, guys. This camera's walking. Walk back on me. I'm gonna fire that cameraman. Get him out of here. Okay. This here just comes off. I'm just test fitting everything. All the decks, profile decks, superstructure decks, all glued in here, all done, all screwed in, holes pretty done, sponsons all faired in. Right now, I'm working on, like I said, I gotta build this thing in my mind. Before I proceed any further, these paddles got to be installed inside of the formers of the paddle wheels. Over here, I got my paddles for my paddle wheel. Let me bring it a little closer so you guys can see it. I can't see it on the monitor, but there we go, right there. I put those paddles on. Those called floats or buckets. And I got in a set over here. I'll be doing like this. So I'll probably have this done probably by tonight. And I'll do this tomorrow. Once I get these all done, I got to construct the paddle boxes. The paddle boxes, which house this whole unit itself. I got to run this dowel all the way through the former of the paddles, to the port side, to the starboard side, or starboard to port, don't matter. It's got to be in there before I go any further. Then I just go ahead and slip the paddles in after I have the hull painted. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the whole hull white. Then I'm going to paint the waterline boxcar red with some copper mixed into it. But I'm going to give it a final prime right here before I put the finishing color on. This is about a bear of a kit, guys, to build. It's just something you just can't put together. It's a model to build, not assemble. A lot of parts you have to cut out yourself. A lot of parts are laser cuts. But this is a very beautiful model when it's finished. And like I said earlier in the video, I would advise to have a novice tackle something like this. It'd be full of money right there. You got to know how to read plans and become familiar with what you're doing. Like I say, these things here are, you got to build a model in your mind. Like one night I'll work on the lifeboats. After that I'll work on this. So I got as far as I can right now on the wood, on the ship itself. So I'll go ahead and build the paddles, which I'm doing. But I'm forming the construction on this. The construction booklet is a very wonderful book. It gives you a pretty good idea, and it teaches you how to build a model yourself. But like it says, which they suspect, if you got experience in building these things, you can always astray from the instructions and go ahead and build a model. But right now, like I say, I can't put no of these side shears on. They all got to be painted. All got to be treated. I got to put acetate inside it behind the walls here. Then I'm going to start painting I'll paint these things white first. Before I do that, I got to put the paneling on there. They give you a ton of lumber. I'm not fooling. A ton of lumber. More than what I need for this thing. Look at this. All this lumber. A lot of good stuff there. So I'll be busy for a while this thing. This thing's virtually prefab because they decided to do it that way because they couldn't sell too many of them. This model came out back in the early 1980s. I remember seeing it. It was illustrated in a 1983 catalog of Bluejacket ship crafters. And matter of fact, I think where the hell did I put the? I don't know where it's at. I had the catalog for that. I must put it somewhere. Anyway, I had a 1983 catalog that I got at the time, and it advertised this model. Back in 1983, this thing cost over $300. Very expensive, very expensive. The only difference is there was no such thing as laser parts those days. So what they give you, 7 sheets of 1/8, 9 inches by 40-inch plywood. And you had to trace all those decks off the plans on your plywood. If you had a hand jigsaw or a power jigsaw, that's the only way you had to cut stuff out. Then they give you other really thin boxwood or basswood they give you. Then you got to mark out your windows. You got to cut your own windows out. Very laborious. Very laborious. And a lot of guys didn't like that because it's too much work involved. But let's say that's what makes the model. But nowadays they reissued this thing. Same model, but they with the state of art of laser cutting. Everything's done for you without using all that, without using a jigsaw, which is a blessing. So, just because they give you a good break, that all it is a time saver, fellas. But you still got to build this thing. You just don't assemble it, you got to build it. Okay, I'm working on the paddles over here. That photo etched paddle right there. I'm putting on the floats, or buckets, whatever you call them. And they're like small chevrons on there. I got about 14 more of these things to put on. They come up these modelWrights sheets right here. In front of the camera so you can see. Right there, fellas. The laser cut, you can see where the ones I cut out already. Now it's kind of tricky to put in, but they're once you get them in there, they lock in real well. They don't come out. And they're very good. So I'm working on these paddles now. I'll get them all done and prepared, ready. So I'm gonna start doing some sub-assemblies. I'm gonna probably be working on the walking beam too. All the small stuff is very important because it's laborious. It takes a lot of time. And everything, the rest of the stuff goes together pretty fast. So I should have this thing done tonight, this section. Then I got to start over here on that one. I'll probably resume that tomorrow. Well, Frankie days get a little tired. Okay, we'll take this thing out of zoom range and bring it back to yours truly over here. Yeah. I get the plans behind me over here, as you can tell, in the booklet. But I'm always going to have these plans out, guys, so you can see them and look at them. Because they really help you. They really solve a lot of problems if you don't know what part goes where and where, because these plans have been modified from the original ones. The original ones, they gave me 7 sets of plans. I mean, I'm not kidding you not, 7 sets of them, because the reason why, because each one of those sets of plans got profile decks, saloon decks, all the decks that's got to be traced out there into the wood to cut with a jigsaw. And those plans are discarded. So you can't work off there. So the only plans you got is a profile sheet, which is right here. Then you got the hull section sheet where the hull's at and the rudder assembly, and also the walking beam assembly on there. The other set of plans is just the deck plans, just the interior where the passengers are resided at for the overnight crossing. So there's a lot of detail I can discern right here in this thing. It's all incorporated in these plans. This is a very beautiful ship. I'm very happy I bought this thing. I don't think I'd ever get my hands on one of these guys. It was a Christmas present from my wife. And right now I'm really enjoying myself, taking my time on it. Okay, that's about it for tonight. This video may be in 2 parts, guys. I've been doing a lot of rambling on this thing. And so one day this week I shall have my final reveal on my Matchbox 1/72 scale Corvette, the USS Saucy. I bought the radio for it too. I think I spent about $50 for a 2-channel unit. That's all I need. I've already had a steam control I got in it.